From the Millersville University Weather Center, this is student meteorologist Gabe Keller,
Gavin Morgan.
And Matt Muller.
and we're here with Weather Watch breaking down Hurricane Helene getting set to make landfall in the Big Bend of Florida. And guys, it's really starting to get its act together down there.
Yes, it is. I'm going to take a look at the visible satellite here. Pretty healthy looking storm. It's beginning to pull away from the Yucatan Peninsula. You can see it's wrapping in some dry air from its southeast, but for the most part, the eye is also starting to come out, I think. You can see it right there. So it's looking pretty healthy, and rapid intensification is very possible. If we go over to the Sierra Colorado State, we can see the environment that the storm's currently in. It's got low shear, high sea surface temperature, and good mid-level relative humidity. You got those three things, you're primed for rapid intensification. And then if you look at the model intensity chart, you can see most models take it up to at least Cat 3, with the two outliers taking us up into the high Cat 4 territory. So this thing will most likely be a major hurricane at landfall, and people throughout the Florida Gulf Coast have to be watching this.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you get those sea surface temperatures up around 30 and your mid-level RH pushing 80, that's a really bad combination. And that combined with the low shear over the water, now that we know that it's going between the Yucatan Peninsula and the island of Cuba, that the land is really not going to slow down any attempted rapid intensification.
I'm going to step over to the HMOT model, which is what I kind of think is the most likely outcome for it. You see it's going to strengthen as it moves up the Gulf. This has it getting all the way down to a 935 pressure storm, 932. That's going to equivalent to probably strong Cat 3, strong Cat 4. But the big thing I want to notice is just look how big this wind field is. This is not going to most likely be some small compact storm. This is going to be a big wind field, tropical storm force winds for miles, all the way possibly. I believe Tampa has got tropical storm force warnings, tropical storm warnings, and hurricane warnings all up and down this Big Bend of Florida. If we take a look at the National Hurricane Center's cone, we can see the landfall is right in that Big Bend as a major hurricane. Hurricane warnings throughout it, and tropical storm warnings extending all the way, even to Miami. That's how big the wind field of this hurricane is going to be. Now I'm going to pass it over to Matt. He's going to talk about the rainfall that's going to be associated with Helene.
Yeah, thank you. So as Gavin mentioned prior, this thing is huge. It's very large. And when you have big storms like this, you have the ability to move a lot more water as opposed to a storm that has a tighter, more woven core. And so I first want to show the storm surge graphics. This is the National Hurricane Center's peak surge forecast. As you can see in the Big Bend where it's going to make landfall, that's 12 to 18 feet. That's record-breaking, catastrophic, life-threatening. Any way you want to slice it, this is huge, and this is devastating for this entire landfall region. Even farther away from where it's going to make landfall, you have 8 to 12 feet just north of Tampa Bay, 5 to 8 feet in the bay itself, and even down here towards southwest Florida, 3 to 5 feet. That's pretty formidable.
And people forget that even 3 to 5 feet of water above sea level, that's a lot. Like, that's not nothing.
Especially because it's going to be moving, it's going to be flowing. This is still damaging, life-threatening flooding, even if it's only a couple of feet. The other big type of flooding that is a risk with this storm is just freshwater rainfall flooding. I mean, anytime you get a tropical cyclone, especially with the deep pull of moisture that Helene has, you have the potential for big flooding rates, even well inland. I want to draw your attention to this surface analysis map. This is from the Weather Prediction Center. We have a lot of frontal energy, especially going through the southeastern United States right now, and this is setting up a predecessor rain event. So especially in eastern Alabama, western Georgia, a lot of this southeastern region, you're already having training showers and thunderstorms setting up. And that's going to moisten the soil before the arrival of Helene tomorrow, and it's going to cause its own issues in terms of flooding. This is the excessive rainfall outlook for the WPC for today. As you can see, we have this high-risk area set up in parts of the Smoky Mountain region, the Tennessee, some of North Carolina, South Carolina, maybe even a clip of Georgia there. That's covering this predecessor rain event, as well as some of the upslope flow into the Smoky Mountains. So you have that east flow moving into the mountains. It's lifting air. It's causing more moisture to be wrung out. This is for tomorrow. As you can see, that high risk is pretty much the same as the one for today. But then as you expand out, you have this larger moderate risk area in Florida. And just added a few minutes ago, it didn't update here, but right down in the landfall region near Tallahassee and part of Big Bend, they did just add a high risk. So let's take a look at some of these totals, because again, there's high risks, there's a lot of moisture with this system, there's a lot of flooding potential here. So this is the GFS model, and as you can see, we're going now, this is this evening, so this is 8 o'clock tonight, 7 p.m. Central. So you can see as we go into the night now, this is coming from that predecessor rain event, already could be a few inches in the Smoky Mountain region. And then, whoops, skipped a little bit. And then into tomorrow, as you can see, Helene is lifting north into Florida. Be double-digit totals there. And the center of circulation is, so by this point, this is around midday tomorrow. Helene's made, I'm sorry, this is midday Friday. This is after Helene has made landfall and started moving north and then getting pulled west. As you can see, 9, 10 inches, maybe even more for parts of Florida. Go up to this other area I was talking about with the Smokies. GFS is 13, maybe even up to 15 inches of rain. So this is rainfall totals that this part of the country really doesn't get often. And it can, especially with the duration and some of the high wind impacts being exacerbated by the flooding, this could be a really huge deal, especially as you go farther inland.
15 inches of rain is not 15 inches of snow. 15 inches of snow is dealable. 15 inches of rain, that's going to be life-threatening flash floods and river floods. It's not going to be fun for those people getting 15 inches of rain.
Definitely nothing to play around with, especially if you live in an area that's more flood prone. I'm going to turn it over to Gabe now, because when you get these tropical systems, you can also have tornadoes. So he's going to touch on that.
Yeah, so as is a threat with most tropical cyclones, there is going to be a significant tornado threat associated with it. So this is the Colorado State Machine Learning Severe Weather Probability Guidance. And you can see a very large area of a 15% chance over Georgia, Florida, and South Carolina. So they're going pretty aggressive with the tornado threat. But I kind of tend to agree. The CSU machine learning does pretty well, especially with setups like this. It pretty much nailed Tropical Storm Beryl, even though there were areas that didn't see as much tornadic activity, but it had the general area down pretty well. And I want to move it over to the Storm Prediction Center. They already have this small enhanced risk right around like Hilton Head Island, down into Georgia and the border of Florida for a 10% tornado risk. So they're going a little bit more conservative than CSU, and that's kind of pretty typical, especially for a setup like this. They don't like to, go all out or on red alert especially for tropical cyclones, which is understandable. But I would not be surprised to see by tomorrow this 10% be shifted westward and northward up into South Carolina, and maybe even a small 15% added. We'll see how things look tomorrow once landfall occurs and everything. But now I want to bring your attention to some of the models. So this is the HUR model, which is not usually the best for actual hurricanes when it comes to the wind speeds and stuff like that, but it does typically have a good handle on the convection and the tornadic side of things. And I want to particularly call your attention to these orange colors. So this is instability. So where we see these orange and reds, there's going to be pretty favorable instability for tornadoes. And you can see as I run it through the center of the circulation, it's right here. So as it moves through, you can see that instability get lifted. And with a tropical cyclone like this, it won't take as much as you would think to produce tornadoes. So what I really want to call your attention to is this photograph. Anytime you get this long sickle-shaped photograph like this, you're talking about very favorable wind shear. That's winds turning with height. And you can see the wind shear in 1 kilometer is 47. That's more than double what you would want to have tornadoes. So when you get these environments like this, really the only thing that could hold them back is the instability. These are kind of modest numbers, but in an environment like this, they will get the job done, especially calling your attention to the 3K period. This is kind of low-level instability. Anytime you're over 75 to 100, that's pretty favorable for tornadoes. And pretty much every model is showing a pretty favorable tornado threat. And for fun, I'm going to pull up the significant tornado parameter. This is an equation that was developed with the idea that anytime it's greater than 1, the environment is favorable for an EF2 plus tornado. So going into tomorrow, this is tomorrow about 5 o'clock into the evening, you're already starting to see pretty favorable conditions near the Florida-Georgia line. And if we take a sounding from inside that, it looks pretty much like this. Again, you have that long stretched photograph, pretty good or pretty modest instability, but again, that's really all it's going to take in an environment like this. And what's going to happen with this is just going to move on northward. As we get into the night, there's probably not as favorable over a widespread area with the loss of daytime heating. And you can just see it kind of make its way right along the Atlantic coast. So really any area starting from down into Florida all the way up into North Carolina, I would be on the lookout for tornadic activity. If you get a supercell to fire in one of those rain bands, it could spell trouble.
Now, Gabe, do you expect this to be a typical tropical event with short-term, short-lived tornadoes?
I would say in general, yeah. These profiles aren't exactly like violent tornado parameters by any means, but anytime you get numbers that look like this, there definitely is the potential for a significant tornado. But I wouldn't expect those, classic hour-long lived tornadoes that you might see in the Central Plains in the summer.
And sometimes that's hard. The tropical tornadoes are often short-lived and can come out of nowhere and sneak up on forecasters and the National Weather Service.
Yeah, that's the other thing that makes it hard is they can spin up really quickly. Like a storm can look pretty innocent, and then the next radar scan you could have a tornado in progress, and the next one it could be gone. And it can be very hard for forecasters to get that word out in time before it's already done its damage. So definitely, if you have loved ones living in this region, I would definitely notify them that it's not just the rain and wind that we're keeping an eye on. There is a pretty substantial tornado threat with this tropical cyclone as well.
I mean, this cyclone's basically got it all. It's got storm surge, it's got wind, it's got tornadoes, it's got rain. It's got everything that every risk that tornadoes or hurricanes typically come with. I mean, it's packing. So this is going to be a significant event for the Southeast.
Definitely.
All right. Well, I think that's all we have. So, I believe we're going to have another Weather Watch issue tomorrow as it makes landfall. So, but that's all we have for today. So
keep an eye out. Yeah, keep an eye out tomorrow. Landfall, I think, is expected sometime between 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. So we'll probably have a video out a little bit before then. But until then, if you have loved ones living in that area, please let them know. Hopefully, they've already evacuated by now.
Yes, especially on the coast.
Yeah, definitely in that Big Bend region for sure.
All right. Well, that's all we have. Thank you so much for listening. Check back next time.